Welcome, everybody, to episode 13 of Last Man Standing. We are live. My name is Tony Farmer. His name is Ryan Hogue. As I say to start every show, he was the last man standing in the 2003 NFL Draft, Mr. Irrelevant, drafted by the Raiders. Great to get a former NFL player's perspective on NFL survivor pools. We are here to react to the hot off the presses Circa Survivor entry selection count that just came out a couple minutes ago. So we'll be talking about that. The Survivor Revival contest also started. If you're in Survivor Revival like I am, go ahead and shoot us a message. Let us know that you're in that. There's about 550-ish people that are in that Survivor contest as well. We're starting fresh. Week 6 is essentially week 1. All the teams are available, and it goes by the same rules as Circa Survivor. So that should be fun as well. Before the show's over, I'll let you know what the Survivor count is for Circa Revival as well. Also, Ryan's main task today on this show is to not let me forget to revisit the tipping question, because on the last episode, someone asked a question about, hey, if you win Circa Survivor, how much should you tip your proxy? Are there other people to tip? And those are really good questions that I wasn't equipped. I didn't know the answer to because I haven't won Circa Survivor yet. But I went and talked to someone who did win Circa Survivor, and I got an answer for you. So Ryan's laughing at the idea of me winning. So it's such a far-fetched thing to happen, Ryan, because I've made 3 deep-ass runs in the last 4 years. It's so far-fetched. He's going to laugh at me for that. Anyways, Ryan, I'm going to go ahead. Do you have anything to say, Ryan, before I pull this selection count up?
No, I don't.
All right. We're going to pull this up. I'd like you to react to this, Ryan. Eagles, about 50% of the entries are on the Eagles. And I'll tell you what, although that's a high number, I was actually kind of expecting the number to be a little more, if I'm being honest with you. I think part of the reason why it wasn't quite as high as I thought it might be is because we've got an educated pool, Ryan. Shows like this one, groups like Survivor Atlas and their Discord channel, it's an educated group. And they know that although Philadelphia is tempting because it's the highest point spread of the week, it's strategically not the best idea. So I think a lot of people got off Philly and went to other islands. Whereas in, a typical office pool, 90-person pool, something like that, I think there'd be a lot more people on Philly at this point. We've already got the comments rolling in. Love your interactions with you guys. Eagles stink. Bye-bye 110. Hey, let me tell you, the Eagles are 3-8. Let me repeat that. The Eagles are 3-8 in their last 11 games, dating back to last season. So don't be feeling too confident about the Eagles, even though the Browns have been complete shit so far this year. Ryan, what are your reactions to what you see up on the screen?
Starting with the Eagles, I think they're a different team when A.J. Brown is healthy and able to play. They're coming off a bye, obviously. So the fact that they're healthy and now they have that run pass option, I think, they're a much better team than that 3-8 past 11 would show. I think Cleveland is on the verge of, quitting on their coach. They've already quit on their quarterback, I think. And unless they make a change where they bench Deshaun Watson, it seems like Amari Cooper kind of wants out. Jerry Jeudy is unhappy wherever he is, and he's not happy with the amount of targets he's getting. They can't run the ball. They have no offensive line. So, but I will say this: Cleveland does have talent, and they are live. And if they can keep it close at halftime, like I guarantee those 110 people are going to be in a coin flip situation going into that fourth quarter. But if Philly jumps out early 10-0 or something, good luck. I think Cleveland will fold. A couple of ones that stand out to me, there's only one that picked San Francisco. I thought there would be more because I just think with San Francisco being 0-2 going into that Thursday night game in their division, they couldn't afford going 0-3, and they really had to win. Now they tried to throw the game, quite frankly, after being up big. But so that's a little surprising that number is so low. I think Green Bay and Baltimore being so high is actually a pretty big surprise to me, because I feel like both of those games are coin flips. And again, we're only in week 6, right? I mean, if this is week 16, I'd be like, well, that's kind of what you got to do. Week 6, though, I don't know. I think the Cardinals are very feisty, and they have been. And it's not like Green Bay's been world beaters. They oftentimes find ways to beat themselves. And then, Baltimore versus Washington. I mean, Washington, has looked better than Baltimore if you're looking on the macro level, like the entire season. And what does Baltimore do well? They run the ball, but Washington actually defends the run really well. They don't defend the pass very well. I mean, Baltimore certainly can pass the ball, but they want to run the ball. Washington is going to make them pretty one-dimensional, and I'm fascinated to see what happens. And then Jane Daniels is the ultimate X factor, like Lamar normally is. Jane Daniels is now the X factor, and he can just flat out win games by himself. I'm really curious why those people would go so hard on those two games, because I feel like there's much better games. Like, quite frankly, I think the Steelers versus the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders are decimated. They got a new quarterback. Their leading receivers out. Their number 2 receiver, Jacoby Myers, now is going to miss the game. Their starting tight end, Michael Mayer, is out. Their starting running back, Zamir White, is out. Their right tackle is questionable for the game. Their left guard is questionable for them. I mean, you name it. Like, all these guys are questionable. Plus, Max Crosby's playing on one leg. So, and you're playing against Mike Tomlin, who's coming off 2 losses. Like, tell me the last time Pittsburgh's lost 3 games in a row. So, the team with 6 entries is all on the Eagles. That is, I would, if you're that confident, go 5 on the Eagles and then 1 somewhere else, because I don't know. I mean, I understand fading teams, but man, that's an early fade to just believe that that Cleveland has quit. So, those are my thoughts.
Ryan, I think the big winner here is anybody that picked the Texans, the 17 on the Texans. So the expected value formula, I haven't gone in and punched it in. For those who aren't familiar with the expected value, it's basically a blend of the probability, the most likely, or how likely a team is to win, blended with how many people actually pick them. And you want to have an expected value over 1. I haven't gone and punched these in yet, but I suspect just by looking at these, the Texans are going to have the best expected value this week. Only 17 people picked the Texans. I think if you're on the Texans, you're loving the way this worked out. If you're on the Packers and Ravens, it's not time to panic, because at the end of the day, it's only 31 people, 24 people. But I think you're a little disappointed. I think the reason you take the Packers and Ravens here is because you think you're going to be on an island. There's going to be 8 or 9 people on there with you. I think anybody that took Green Bay and Baltimore is a little disappointed that they're 2 and 3. I'm loving it. If you picked Atlanta or Houston, I think those people are thrilled to death right now that there's less than 20 people on those.
And then I see that Tampa Bay, New Orleans always plays Tampa Bay really, really well. And even though there's a new quarterback, Spencer Rattler is one of those guys that could be just awful, or I could see him throwing for 350 yards like, Kirk Cousins threw for 500 against him last year. I could see Rattler going and getting the ball to Olave, which they haven't been doing. And so, that divisional matchup I'm a little leery about. And then I see 4 people on the Texans.
Let me interrupt real quick just to talk about Tampa real quick.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with anything you said there, but what I think makes Tampa a little more interesting, Antoine Winfield's back. Kalijah Cansey's back. Luke Godeke, their starting right tackle, is expected to be back. So I think that makes Tampa a little more attractive because they're starting to get healthier. And while their health is improving, the Saints' health is declining. Taysom Hill is still out. They're banged up on the offensive line. They have a starting safety, I believe, who's going to be out in this one. They get back Willie Gay. They lose Werner, their linebacker. That's a major downgrade in terms of coverage linebacking ability. Baker should be able to really abuse those linebackers in coverage. So I just want to say that. I don't disagree with what you're saying. It's a good point that the Saints play the Bucs tough, and it's a divisional matchup. But the injury situation, I think, does make Tampa Bay a little more attractive there.
And what do we say? The NFL is a matter of survival of attrition. Which teams are the healthiest at the end of the year? Generally, the teams that are going to be in the playoffs. You look at the Chiefs last year; they were one of the healthiest teams, and they clearly showed it. I didn't think that Winfield was for sure back. I thought he was questionable.
He's in. He is
for sure in.
Well, I don't know about nothing's for sure, but he got in the practices this week, and it's definitely looking like he's going to play.
Well, I know he had 3 limited practices. So we'll see. But and then the other one was Titans. Titans still have Will Levis as their quarterback, and I know they're coming off of a bye, but man, I really like Cincinnati because I think they're the best 1-4 team in the history of the NFL. I mean, if you look at who Cincinnati has lost to, right? They lost to the Chiefs, they lost to Washington, they lost to Baltimore. I mean, and who was their other loss? Oh, New England. But those, like, three of those teams are three of the best teams in the NFL. So like they're not a bad 1-4 team. I think they're similar to where San Francisco was coming into Thursday night. They are going to win that. If I had a pick, that is probably where I would have gone, either Steelers or Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati's probably a little more desperate, so I probably would have gone with them. But and then I understand Chargers coming off of a bye. Jim Harbaugh generally doesn't lose coming off of a bye. He's really, really good, and they're playing against a team that doesn't have a ton of offense. They're still banged up a little bit, but I don't mind that pick with that one person. And then Jacksonville, you just never know against the Bears. We'll see. I'm surprised there's nobody on the Bears, but yeah, Jacksonville in London. Good way to start the day tomorrow.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's the only dog on the board right now. Although there's been some line movement in that one. It might even be down to a pick 'em now at this point. But all week, the Bears have been, kind of a 2-point favorite throughout most of the week, at least. You know who else the big winner is here, Ryan? The one guy who picked the Niners. Because if 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, if 9 teams lose Sunday, which isn't likely to happen, but theoretically, if 9 teams lose Sunday, he's taking home $14 million. That's a good feeling. And while that's not super realistic, it is realistic that like the top 3 could all lose. We've had weeks like that so far in Circa Survivor. So that guy's got to be feeling really good that he's across the finish line. He gets to just root for absolute carnage, absolute train wreck here on Sunday. Sit back, sip a beer, and just hope that the favorites go down. And that guy's going to be having a guy or gal is going to be having a really fun Sunday for sure.
And if it would have been, if they would have listened to our show, right? Jamil Soriano was our guest, and he said that San Francisco was his lock of the week, and he was correct. So shout out to Jamil.
Yeah, Jamil we had on the show. He was actually traded for by Bill Belichick and won a Super Bowl ring with the Patriots, played for a couple other teams in the NFL as well. And, hey, maybe the person did watch our show, Ryan, and maybe that's why they picked the 49ers. We never know. Yeah. If that's the case, certainly drop us a comment. But our guests have been doing pretty good so far, Ryan. If you follow our guests, you're doing pretty well in Circa Survivor. And we think we've got another guest lined up for you guys on Tuesday. Ryan never tells me who these guests are, so it's just as much of a surprise for me as it is for you guys. But I'm excited to see who we think we have lined up for Tuesday. So tune in on Tuesday.
It's not Randy Moss, unfortunately, but we'll see if I can get him on.
That would be nice. Ryan's former teammate, Randy Moss. I want to go back, Ryan, to the tipping question that we had on last week's episode. Someone said, if you win Circa Survivor, how much do you tip? I don't remember the exact question, but I think they alluded to, like, is there anybody else to tip other than proxies and things like that? And it's a fantastic question. So I reached out to Mike Buckmiller, former winner of Circa Survivor, one of the nicest guys in the world, by the way, from everything that I can tell through my interactions with him online. And I know you met him in person. And I didn't want to ask Mike. I thought it was kind of personal to ask him, like, hey, exactly how much did you tip when you won? And so instead of asking him that question, I asked, like, can you give me like a rough idea, roundabout idea, what's an appropriate amount to tip if you win Circa Survivor? And he said around 25,000 to your proxy if you're winning that millions of dollars. And I thought that sounded about right. It makes sense. But he also did mention, like, if the proxies are just putting your picks in for you, that's one thing. But like the year he had, the proxies were also like connecting people so that they could come to a chop. And that's like extra work that they're doing. Like they may not have been able to chop without the work of those proxies. And so some people are reaching out on Twitter. Some people are connecting with people other ways. And maybe you don't need your proxy to do that. And that's worth discussing. But keep those extra things in mind that your proxy may be doing for you. And the other thing that he threw in there is he talked about tipping Jeff Benson, because after you win, he works for Circa, by the way, another great guy. After you win, he kind of walks you through a lot of the legal paperwork if you got partners and things like that. So keep that in mind as well. Tipping is one of those things that's kind of I don't want to say controversial, but people do have strong opinions on it and get fired up about you're tipping too little, you're tipping too much, this person deserves it, they don't. So I'll just kind of leave it at that and just share with you the information that I learned. But something to be aware of if you're one of the 219 people left in Circa Survivor. And if you are, pat yourself on the back because you've made it further than most. And I just want to say this as someone who's not in it right now and was in it at this point last year with 120 people to go. I had 2 entries left. Soak it up. Get the best friggin' night of your sleep, to get best night's rest tonight that you can. Wake up tomorrow. Don't be nervous. You've already done the hard part, which is making the decision. Enjoy the games and soak up every moment, because who knows how often in your life you'll get a chance to be this close to winning $14 million. So from here on out, enjoy the ride. Try not to stress too much and soak up every second of it. Tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun.
Tony, just for clarification, that 25 grand that he tipped, was that based off of a chop?
So, well, want to clarify, I'm not saying he tipped 25,000. That was his recommended ballpark, right? But to answer your question in terms of the 25,000, that was from his like from an entry would be about 25,000, not pooled together from the entire chop. That's your question. Does that make sense? And I'm frozen here. I'm not sure if I lost Ryan or if you guys are still seeing me right now. So I'm just going to keep blabbing and keep talking and pull this bad boy up. 4 people on the Titans in a really close game against the Colts. 24 people going to be sweating out that Ravens game against the Commanders. That's 24 people who do not believe in the Commanders. They do not believe in Jaden Daniels. They don't believe it for 1 second. We've got 18 on the Falcons against Drake May. That's 18 people that do not believe in Drake May. 18 people that aren't worried about Joe Mixon may not necessarily play. The Texans, by the way, are also down a cornerback. They're down a safety. They're down their best wide receiver. Tank Dell, their next best wide receiver, there's rumors that he may not be 100% because he's not playing like the Tank Dell that we're used to when you look at the advanced analytics in terms of the separation that he's getting. So this is a vulnerable team on the road for the Texans, but I'll say it again, what I said earlier, you got to be feeling good with only 16 other people on the Texans if you're one of those Texans backers. So again, to recap, I think this is a good night for Texans and Falcons backers. Slightly bad night for Packers and Ravens backers. And we should have ourselves a fun day of football tomorrow. If you guys have any other questions or comments, get them in now. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off here. We're going to be live on Tuesday with a special guest. Please tune in Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we'll see you guys then. Best of luck to every. Before I go, the Revival contest, which I've got a couple entries in, and I'm excited about that. Let me read you the entry counts for the Revival contest. Again, going by Circa rules, there's about 500-ish people in it. And the number 1 selection was the Eagles with 185. That's 34%. Texans second with 16%. Falcons 16%. Packers 8%. Ravens 7%. And there's a bunch of teams below them. One person has already lost with the Seahawks, so tough luck to them. 538 people left in that pool. So good luck to anybody that's in the Revival contest. Good luck to anybody that's still left in Circa Survivor. You guys are awesome if you've made it this far. Soak it up. We'll see you Tuesday. Take care.